It sucks that I have to do this because I really like the Oklahoma Sooners, man, but Oklahoma sucks. And I'm not talking about defensively because defensively, this team is really good. Not going to sit up and say that Oklahoma is a championship caliber defense, but man, their defense is really good. I was confident in their front seven. I was confident in their secondary, but mostly their front seven. It's very, very good. You got one of the best linebackers in the country. I felt like they had a deep rotation. Oklahoma is very good, and they lost some key starters today on defense, but that's a very good defense. And I got to give a lot of credit to them, man, because they were just holding strong. They held out as much as they possibly could to try to get this Oklahoma offense to do something. And listen, I got to give credit to Tennessee's defense. Tennessee has a very, very deep rotation. Tennessee's defense is good. They were good last year. They're good this year. But Tennessee, they're not world beaters. Oklahoma's offense made Tennessee's defense look like the fucking 85 Chicago Bears. Tennessee's defense is good. It's not that good. And I know there's going to be some fans that are going to sit up and say, well, we allowed this, we crushed this. This was your first ranked opponent. All right. And NC State is fucking garbage. We all know NC State's garbage. How do we know this? Because Clemson absolutely annihilated them today. They annihilated them. So if we're going to count NC State, then it is what it is. Oklahoma legit has a very good defense. Their offense is just awful. Like, their offense is god-awful. They struggled against Houston. They struggled against Houston. The Tulane game, they did score 34 points, but pretty much that first half, they struggled against Tulane. Listen, Oklahoma has had offensive line question marks. The quarterback, Jackson Arnold, you saw what happened to him. He got benched today. He's been having an off season. He's been having a terrible season since the beginning. He has not lived up to expectations. And is there still time for Jackson Arnold to grow? Absolutely. Because he still is a young guy. He's a young quarterback. This is a first-year starter for this full season. But something has to happen. Now, the offensive line not clicking. You know what? At some point, I think we all have to accept that we should have saw this coming. Because when you lose that many starters in a 2-year span, and you have to keep going in the transfer portal over and over and over again to fill in the holes or fill in the weaknesses on your offensive line, at some point we got to understand that these guys are either too young, or you're bringing them in as 1-year replacements so that your backups, which are the younger guys, can kind of fill in the void in about a year or two. Like, in 2 years, man, you lost 2 first-round tackles. You lost a lot of experience the last couple years. And so at some point, for this offensive line, for them to kind of just blow it all up this year, and them not living up to expectations, and again, I thought that this offensive line was going to be SEC ready. It's just not. And again, when you lose that much production and you try to really replace it with a lot of either transfer portals or just young personnel, that has to be expected. The receivers are not as good as we thought they were. The quarterback, Jackson Arnold, like I just said again, he is not ready. Jackson Arnold's not ready yet to run this offense. And you got your backup guy in there who I thought I think he brings a different element, a different dimension in terms of improving the run game. But this offense is a long way to go. And it may not take until we get to maybe the second half of the season, maybe late in the second half of the season, that Oklahoma's offense starts to kind of turn it on. But for the most part, the defense has really carried this football team. It has. They've created a lot of turnovers. They gave this Oklahoma offense all season great field position. Everyone who's been watching Oklahoma football knows the defense isn't the issue. The problem is their offense. And it's kind of like, it sucks because if Oklahoma's offense, if you had Oklahoma's offensive line from last year, you bring it over to this year and you bring in Dylan Gabriel to be your quarterback, this Oklahoma football team could have looked way more dangerous than they do this year. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. Again, I think Oklahoma, depending on what happens, they could, again, I don't know how many juniors and seniors they have on their defense, but they could lose a lot of player personnel next year. I know Danny Stutzman is most likely going to go off into the NFL and Billy Bowman. And so that's really going to hurt. You lost one of your best defensive players to injury. Again, they had to put an air cast on his leg. Hopefully he's going to be all right. And, hopefully he's going to be fine. I know he's done for the season, but just hopefully he can, long-term wise, he can be fine. But, I mean, Oklahoma, man, it's going to be a struggle, man, because all of a sudden you start to go into their schedule, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy at all, and it's going to be a lot of the defense being on the field, seeing they can try to create great field position. And even then, even when they were creating great field position for Oklahoma's offense, they kept turning over the ball over, or they just kept getting quick 3-and-outs. Now, like I said before, we got to give some credit to Tennessee. Again, they have a deep rotation in their front seven. Their secondary is new, I believe. I think their secondary is new, and they're starting to kind of gel together. But when that front seven is doing literally all the work, I mean, it's going to make it a much easier transition for the secondary to get to just potentially even get it right. Now, I will say this: Tennessee hasn't played anybody that can test them down the field. They haven't played anybody that can do that. And so they may not play anyone like that until, honestly, us, I believe. I think it's us, or I think they might play Missouri. I'm not too sure. But I do know that us, Alabama, in about 2 or 3 weeks, that is something. Well, I'm sorry, no, in 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, honestly, Tennessee's first test is probably going to be Alabama. And so we'll figure out and see what happens, what type of team Tennessee can be. But we do know this: they have a great defense. They have a great defense. They have a great running game. The offensive line, who I heard from some Tennessee fans, you guys can correct me, they had some banged up players, some banged up personnel on their offensive line, and yet Oklahoma's defense is great, but maybe there's some truth to that. But we'll see. Ultimately, we'll see. But the running game is great. The defense is great, and then Nico, he's starting to learn. I don't think Nico's there yet. Some people are saying he's already an elite quarterback, which is an absolute. It's just a shitty-ass overreaction. But he's a solid quarterback. I think right now Nico is in that game manager stage where he doesn't have to do too much, just not turning over the football, but be efficient, make plays when needed to be made. But obviously the talent is there. He's just got to put it all together. And I think he's learning week by week. But, I don't think Tennessee hasn't been tested yet. And unfortunately, this is an Oklahoma team that, even though their defense is very good, and so the defense can test out the offense, and Tennessee's offense can learn from that. I'm just not too sure if Tennessee's defense has faced a test that literally could be a threat to not just run the football on them, but also can stretch the ball down the field against them. They haven't played anyone like it yet, and Oklahoma, unfortunately, hasn't been able to do that all season long. So Oklahoma, man, this is year 2. Our year 3 under Brent Venables. The first year was terrible. The second year was an improvement. The third year was supposed to be the year where again, I'm not saying that they should have won 11, 12 games, but 8 wins should have been the bare minimum for this football team. And I have no idea how many games Oklahoma's going to win, because they have a very tough-ass schedule. And if this offense can't click and the defense does all the work, not only are your personnel on defense going to get banged up and injured, but your offense isn't going to get that much better either. And so it could be very dangerous for Oklahoma. But I'll always say this: Venables got that extension, but if they can't get the ball rolling, is this athletic department, are they ready to say, fuck it, we're ready to just buy him out, because it clearly isn't working? I know Oklahoma fans are tired of it. They want him out. I understand that. At this point, I get why they're just impatient. I get why it's impatient, because this is year 3 now, and you're not taking a step forward. You're going backwards. And this is historically a program that just hasn't lost a lot of games, especially during the turn of the 21st century. They're not used to this. So we'll see what happens, man. But yeah, great win by Tennessee. And Oklahoma, man, I have no idea what you guys are going to do, man. Good luck.